This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for this Friday, May 22nd. I'm George Thomas. The reopening process is underway in one phase or another in all 50 states. Medical experts predict a second wave of infections will come, but the president says next time it will be handled much differently. Our senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains.
Touring a Ford plant in Michigan Thursday, President Trump said a second wave of coronavirus infections is anticipated. The CDC expecting it to hit when the weather cools down again this fall and winter.
Whether it's an ember or a flame, we're going to put it out. But we're not closing our country.
Still, as people return to their daily activities, experts urge vigilance, since there are concerns a new wave of cases will emerge in the coming weeks as the economy gradually reopens.
I want to get our country back to normal.
With all 50 states now reopening, there are signs of a new normal everywhere. At this high school in Hoover, Alabama, 400 students graduated standing 6 feet apart while wearing masks. In California, Yosemite Park won't open until next month, but businesses around it that rely on its tourists are opening their doors. Like many destination towns, the coming months are crucial to their bottom line.
This is our peak time. So from Memorial Day to Labor Day weekend, this is where we make our money. And so if we don't have that, it's going to be a big dent in our local economy.
And as Memorial Day approaches, the National Park Service in Washington is preparing for visitors.
We certainly expect that there will be people who come down to pay their respects on Memorial Day.
Still, tensions remain between continuing restrictions out of concerns over more cases and restarting the economy. This as the unemployment rate is expected to exceed 20%.
If you don't want to go back to work, don't go back to work. But don't deny the rest of us the ability to go back to work.
Michigan is one of the hardest hit states. The governor issued some of the nation's most restrictive lockdown measures and has been the subject of numerous protests. Carl Mankey is a symbol of that anger. The barber refused to shut down his shop in defiance of the governor's orders, and Thursday a judge took his side, denying the state's request to close him down.
I refuse to stand down. Listen, license or no license or whatever it is, I'm 77. I mean, are they going to give me life?
The president expects economic numbers to strengthen over the next few months. But if there is another flare-up of cases, governors, not the president, could decide how states react. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Thank you, Jennifer. As the nation reopens, many churches aren't given the same consideration as businesses and other organizations. In the Minnesota legislature, Republicans are pushing back against ongoing restrictions on churches, and so are church leaders. The Minnesota Catholic Conference and the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod sent the governor letters announcing that they would be resuming worship services on May 26th, despite his restrictions. Currently, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's current COVID-19 executive order allows retailers to operate at 50% capacity beginning June 1st. However, churches have not been given the green light, still being required to cap worship services at 10 people. The governor is saying there won't be any changes for churches until phase 2. Diana Verm with the religious liberty group Beckett says there isn't a pandemic exception to our constitutional rights.
The government has to follow the First Amendment even in a time of crisis. And this is a situation where if the government is treating retail and non-essential businesses one way, they have to have a really good argument based in science for why they can't treat churches the same way. And we haven't seen that yet.
Turning overseas to Israel, where the nation's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be in court Sunday. It's the opening of a criminal trial against him in the Jerusalem District Court. Netanyahu faces charges of fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes. He's accused of accepting extravagant gifts and granting favors. Netanyahu has denied the charges and any wrongdoing. He says he's the victim of a conspiracy by over-aggressive police, prosecutors, and media. Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. Chris, what is the sense over there about Netanyahu's trial starting Sunday?
Well, George, it's front page news. Here is the Jerusalem Post. You know, they're seeing the courtroom right there. Here, Aretz as another one of the front page headlines here in Israel. It's a really big deal. Some are calling it the trial of the century. This is the first time a sitting prime minister will actually appear in court right now. You know, Netanyahu tried to actually appear in court. Through his lawyers, he was trying to make sure that he didn't have to be there. This is a bit of a preliminary hearing right now, but those are obviously not the images he wants right now. It was actually postponed because of COVID-19. Supposed to happen in March. Now it's happening in May, and it actually may determine the fate of his new government. So it's a very, very big deal here in Israel, and especially for Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Chris, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says he's repealing all treaties with Israel because Israel may annex parts of Judea and Samaria. Could this mean more confrontation with Israel?
Certainly can, George. This is another big story here. But he's also threatening to abolish security cooperation with Israel. That might be a bridge too far for Mahmoud Abbas. The reason being he actually needs Israel to survive. And it could be just rhetoric that he has right now for the Europeans and even U.S. Democrats. Biden, actually, the candidate for the Democratic Party for the presidency, he's coming out more in favor of the Palestinian Authority. So part of this rhetoric could be for his consumption as well. In actually the Arab states right now, they're looking to Israel, I think, in the long term, not to the Palestinian Authority. For the first time, there was actually a plane that came from the United Arab Emirates to support the Palestinians, but they actually landed in Israel. That's a big deal. And then complicating things right now, George, is that parts of the new Israeli government may be more sympathetic to the PA than the Netanyahu government.
Chris, today is Jerusalem Day there. Tell us what it is and why is it so significant?
Well, 53 years ago, George, the Israeli paratroopers, they took over the old city for the first time in 2,000 years. You can actually see the walls behind me right now. And back in 1967, that was Jordanian territory. And now, actually, so they were able to take over that from the Jordanians. But actually, you know, some of the paratroopers said they weren't fighting the Jordanians. They were fighting the Romans because 2,000 years ago, the Romans were in control of Jerusalem. And now, for the first time in 2 millennia, the Jewish people were in charge of the old city and, more importantly, the Temple Mount. And many people believe that was not only historic but also prophetic. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Jewish people in control of the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples were there before they were destroyed. And now some people actually think there could be a third temple because of what happened 53 years ago.
Chris, real quickly, what's coming up on this week's Jerusalem Daytime?
Well, we're going to talk about the 1967 Six-Day War. We have a story about, you know, the possibility of, a third Jewish temple. We'll talk about the new government. We also have a new archaeological dig in Jerusalem, just about 50 yards from the Western Wall. That's something new. We'll talk about that plane that came from the United Arab Emirates. And also, we're talking about something called the Miracle of Shalva. Here in Jerusalem, it's the largest facility of its kind in the world. It takes care of disability, people, mainly children with disability. And it's a fascinating story, a heartwarming story. And as someone said, you should bring your tissue when you watch that story.
Right. Terrific. Chris, my man in Jerusalem, thank you so much for coming on the show. You can watch the latest Jerusalem Dateline with Chris and his team tonight, as always, 9:30 Eastern, right here on the CBN News Channel. New details to report on regarding the gunman suspected of carrying out a terror attack at the Corpus Christi, Texas Naval Station. His name is Adam Ashali. Investigators say they are still searching for another person, as Ashali may not have acted alone. One sailor was shot in the chest but was wearing a bulletproof vest and is expected to be okay. That's when authorities say other security guards on the base opened fire, killing Ashali. This attack comes just 3 days after confirmation of a link between Al-Qaeda and the Saudi military trainee who killed 3 Americans at a Pensacola, Florida Navy base last year. Coming up, a new complication is appearing among younger people who faced the coronavirus. Our medical reporter Lori Johnson explains the connection when we come back.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Welcome back. You're watching the CBN News Channel. One of the leading causes of death and disability among seniors is now reaching younger adults. As Lori Johnson reports, that could be due to COVID-19, prompting doctors to examine the connection between the virus and the sometimes deadly complications.
In New York and New Jersey, young adults in their 30s and 40s with COVID-19 are experiencing the most serious type of stroke. Although the numbers are small, it's a sharp increase.
What we think is happening with the COVID virus is that it is thickening people's bloods. In other words, it's thrombogenic. So there is some evidence that younger people may be affected by the COVID just because of the fact of the virus.
That thickening can lead to blood clots in vessels leading to the brain, causing a stroke. Doctors must act fast to remove the clot and get the patient out of danger.
Every minute counts because once the blood supply is missing to the brain, cells begin to die pretty quickly.
COVID-19 is also affecting treatment of this condition in other ways.
New figures show some people who would normally seek medical care for a stroke may now hesitate because they're afraid of catching COVID at the hospital.
Sharon Robinson had a stroke at the peak of the COVID crisis. Despite the potential danger, her daughter called 911.
Primarily, my mother was having a stroke. So that was bigger than a fear of COVID-19. And I also have faith in God, so Jesus, to be specific. So it was more of a faith thing.
Sharon recovered fully.
I just praise God. Everything was just marvelous. Everything, it was quick. I was in the hospital only 2 days. And the doctors was like, this is so unbelievable.
She's now featured in a video encouraging the public to follow her example.
Don't fear to call 911 because people like us, the people who do thrombectomies, we're here. We're at the hospitals. We gear up and we're ready to handle patients who have potential COVID and may be having a stroke.
Stroke symptoms include face drooping, arm weakness, and difficulty speaking. While Sharon lives with her daughter, people who live alone are at greater risk, especially during this pandemic.
And then when you're told to stay away from people staying home, there's not that good network of people to check on each other.
So make frequent phone calls to older family members and friends. Ask questions about how they feel. Also, be aware of the signs and symptoms of a stroke, knowing it could help save a life. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Still ahead, an American pastor is back home after being detained in India. His story next.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
And you're watching the CBN News Channel. An American pastor is home after being held in India for more than 7 months. This after a judge dropped all charges against him and lifted a ban. Pastor Nareen says he was arrested on false charges while traveling to India and Nepal. The American Center for Law and Justice, which defended Pastor Nareen, says the matter could have been resolved in just a matter of hours. Instead, he was jailed for 6 days, then not allowed to leave India after being released on bail. I spoke with Pastor Nareen about how he feels to be back home and what happened to him. Take a listen.
It's extremely good. It's very nice to be back home with my family, to have freedom again.
Briefly tell us why officials in India arrested and detained you. Was it because you were working with a Christian ministry?
It was not. And the narrative of the story is incorrect. It's always been me and $40,000, but there was 3 Americans with $40,000 meeting 10 other people. There was 13 people. But in the airport, when I reached in Delhi and was declaring the money legally like I should, there was very few staff members. I spoke with 3 security people and 1 customs person. They all cleared me to travel with the money, me and my 2 friends, to Bagdogra, where I was arrested. But they did not ever ask me about the money. They didn't ask me about declaration. Their only interest was, are you a Christian? And will you meet with Christians when you reach Bagdogra? And the answer to both was yes.
Were you surprised by this question, this line of questioning at the airport?
No, not at all. I've been to India 5 times. For the last 17 years, I've been going to Nepal twice a year. So I'm used to that line of questioning. I know it's a Hindu nation, and I didn't recognize the shift. I was there 5 years ago, and it was a pleasant, easy place to be. With a new central government and a new prime minister, it's very hostile to be a Christian in India now.
Let me dig deeper on that real quickly. You said you noticed a shift. You believe that in the last 5 years, this particular government of the BJP, led by Narendra Modi, has become more hostile to Christians and Christianity?
Yes, very much. The people in Delhi were not too rough. I mean, it was just a conversation. Yeah, we understand what you're doing. You can go. When I reached Bagdogra Airport, which was my final destination, I was arrested immediately coming off the plane. I was taken in and I was harshly interrogated for 8 hours. I was arrested, sent to prison for 6 days. After I got out of prison, I began the process of trying to get free and to come home. And 2 customs officials from Calcutta informed me that they had been ordered by central government, including Prime Minister Modi, that whatever it took, build a case on this man, send him to prison for 3 to 5 years and make an example of him. So I was predetermined to be sent to prison in Delhi before I ever did anything. And then they took the money from all of us, assigned it all to me. And from then on, the story was an American is here with $40,000, which was not ever true in any sense of the word. But they fabricated stories. They used laws from the Customs Acts of 1962 that did not apply to me. I didn't, even with $40,000, I didn't reach the limit of anything illegal. I never broke a rule or broke a law. But he told me, he said, we have been ordered from Delhi to build a case. And they worked diligently. They went to a friend of mine in India, went into his home, interrogated him in his home to try to prove that I was there doing evangelism work. I was on the way to do the work we do with a Christian group in Nepal. We had just stopped in India for 3 days to celebrate with this man. He was having a 25-year anniversary.
Yeah. I'm sorry, let me just ask you this quick question. How can we pray for Christians in India?
Pray in every way. Christians are being persecuted. They're being hurt in many ways. Everybody knows the stories when President Trump was there about the Muslim problem, about they call it the massacre. What most people don't know is over the same time period, 200 Christians were killed. Hundreds and hundreds of Christians, some of who I met, were pulled from their house, Christian pastors, tied to a tree, including their wife being tied to a tree, and they were beat. Many of them had their houses burnt. Many churches were burned over that same process. And today, your life is at risk every moment, anywhere in India, if you're a Christian.
Yeah, and the reality is that Muslims and other faith groups are also under intense pressure from this particular government. Pastor Naren, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Lion of Judah, a powerful image, a special statue, a special gift to Jerusalem, and what it means to Israel and to evangelicals.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he has, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Welcome back. Almost 15 years ago, a well-known Christian artist began carving a larger-than-life statue for Jerusalem. It depicts the Lion of Judah. And as my colleague CBN's Chris Mitchell reports, it's taken until now for the artist's gift to be delivered and his dream realized.
After years of planning and waiting, workmen set Max Greener's Lion of Judah in place. Jerusalem's deputy mayor said the gift sends a message.
We're just very grateful to have a symbol, not just of the strength and the glory of the Jewish people, but a symbol of the friendship of the evangelical community of the United States, along with the people of Israel and our eternal capital city.
The Texas artist completed the sculpture in 2017, but for 2 years it sat in an Israeli warehouse. Fleur Hassan Nahum heard about the statue from former U.S. Congresswoman and Israel ally Michelle Bachmann. She then began to find a home for it, along with help with Rabbi Pesach Woloki.
And finally today, the great day has arrived. This is the day the Lord has made. And we finally installed this in the city of Jerusalem. And it's no small thing. Again, this is the city of Jerusalem. This is God's capital city.
Thousands of American Christians donated to the project and prayed for its success.
To me, this is really, this represents where this relationship is going. The fact is today, a big part of the strength of the people of Israel and our security and politically internationally is the love and friendship and support of the Christian community of the United States of America.
CBN News followed the line along its journey from central Israel to its new home in Jerusalem. It took workmen a couple of hours to set the massive feline in place. Hassan Nahum wanted a special place in the city.
The first was that it should be in a park, because I really think that this is a beautiful, family-friendly piece of art. And the second criteria, which is very important for me, is that it should have some iconic view of Jerusalem in its background.
The nearly 1,200-pound, 11-foot bronze statue will now become a permanent fixture in Jerusalem. It rests here in the new city and overlooks the old city walls. Amos Cohen oversaw the installation in Bloomfield Park and is responsible for all 170 pieces of art throughout the city.
This is the most beautiful of all the pieces of art we have in this city because it is a lion and the symbol of the city of Jerusalem. It means more to me than any other piece of art in the city. My heart is filled right now. I love the Christian community. They do so much for the city of Jerusalem, and they do so much for the state of Israel.
Hassan Nahum says the Lion of Judah symbolizes the history of the Jewish people.
We're all part of the tribe of Judah, most of us, but it also means a return to our homeland. And I couldn't think of a better way to express our strength, our glory, the return, and the friendship that we have with the evangelical community in this beautiful piece of art by Max Griner.
Woloki feels it reflects a scripture from the book of Numbers.
It will now be said of Jacob and of Israel, see what God has done. The people rise like a lioness, they rouse themselves like a lion.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Bloomfield Park, Jerusalem.
That's pretty cool. That's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online, cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Well, from all of us here in the studio as well as back in the control room, have a fantastic Friday and a great weekend. Goodbye. God bless.